Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode number 200. Can you believe it, folks? Number 200 of Sunday Night Live. So for 200 weeks, pretty much, we have done this show. Week in, week out, pretty much. I think I only tend to miss out, like Christmas and important times like that. But otherwise, we have done 200 straight off, which is pretty cool. And yes, I am playing a nice little reggae vibe because I like it, and I wrote it using just a drum loop, and then I kind of went from there, really. But yeah, it is something I'm working on, not finished yet. I don't tend to write reggae tunes, but this one just kind of came out, really. So yeah, I'm working on it, and who knows what will become of it when it's all said and done. But anyway, welcome to episode number 200. Thank you very, very much to everybody that has stuck with me from episode 1 all the way through to number 200. You guys are awesome, and to everyone who has kind of joined along the way, you guys are also awesome. But I have to, I don't like to single out particular people for my show. But there is one person I really, in fact, no, okay, there are two people that I really must single out. The first person is Jonny Guibe. Without him, this show would never have got started, and I would never have got started making Studio One tutorial videos, which I've kind of had on pause for a little while whilst we've been going through COVID, and I've had to do homeschooling and that kind of thing and adjust to that kind of new life. And now, of course, we've moved house, so we are in a brand new house, and my kids are in brand new schools. So, you know, making tutorial videos has kind of been on hold. So this has really been my only output for the last 18 months. But I am going to resume making tutorial videos, and I'm going to keep the show going as well. So you'll get much more content than we're used to. And my channel has taken a bit of a hit because of the lack of output other than this show. Whoa, that was a huge S. Sorry about that. So yeah, so that's all going to change. My kids settled into the studio into the studio. It's because I'm looking at the chat here. My kids have settled into their new schools. They had 3 days this week. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And so tomorrow and this coming week is their first full week in their new schools. So that should be really interesting and exciting for them. Bit nerve-wracking as well, maybe. But so I'm going to have to adjust to a whole new routine of making sure my daughter gets her bus to school, because that's what she's going to have to do. And taking my son down to his new school, which is about just under a mile away. So good exercise for me, because it's a mile there and a mile back and a mile there and a mile back. So I'm going to be going back to walking 4 miles a day again, which is going to be good for me. I'm looking forward to that aspect of it. But yeah, so a little bit of adjustment period, and you know, find my peak moment when I can make some new videos. I've already got a bunch of titles and ideas and subjects, but if you guys have a particular subject that you would like me to make a video on, then send me an email. Website address is down below, down there somewhere, yeah, along there. If you email me at johnny@johnnylipshamstudios.co.uk, just tell me what the story is. Tell me what it is that you want me to make a video on, to do with Studio One or songwriting or arranging, whatever it might be. And I will make the video for sure. And I would like to build up a little kind of list of videos that you guys would like to see. So person number 1, as I said, is Jonny Guibe. I wouldn't be doing this without him. Person number 2 is Bobby Booth. And the reason why I single him out is because he has been to pretty much every show since I started. So he was here for show 1, and I don't know whether he's here tonight. Hopefully he is, but if he doesn't make it, that's okay. But yeah, he has been involved in this since the start, really. I'm just going to adjust my seat. Hang on a second. There we go. He's been involved with the Sunday Night Live right from the very start. So, and he helped me iron out some of the kinks and suggest better ways of doing it. And he has provided quite a lot of, kind of help and support and some direction sometimes to how I do Sunday Night Live. So he has been a terrific support, and I'm very glad that he has been on board. So really, those two people that kind of are the most significant in getting this show started. I also want to make mention of my mods. Ken Moss is one of those who is here, and Mike Neighbor is my other one, and Just Bob. Those are my 3, and of course Jonny Gibe. And those guys basically make sure that we don't get any dodgy stuff coming into the chat, which we did for a while. We had a period where people would come and spam the chats, and those guys take care of that incredibly well. So thank you to my mods for doing it. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being vigilant and looking after everybody that comes in to the chat whilst I'm either talking to camera like I am right now, or whether we're looking at something in Studio One. You guys are fantastic at making sure that new people are welcomed, and making sure that everybody knows how it works in the chat. Making sure that you put the @Jonny Lipsham Studios in front of the question, so that I know it's a question and it's not you guys just chatting away. That really helps a lot. So those guys really do help with that, and I appreciate them a lot. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. You guys are awesome. But other than that, I really want to thank all of you, every single one of you that is here tonight, and we got 20 people here just now. But we have peaked at 34 before, which has been amazing. So thank you to every single one of you that gives up this little period of your Sunday evening, which is probably it's 6 p.m. Central Time. It's probably just before dinner time or kind of around dinner time. I appreciate it a lot that you guys take this little bit of time out to come and listen to me talk, essentially, or play some keyboard or demonstrate something in Studio One. So I appreciate you guys immensely. Billy Morgan was first in the door at practically a whole hour ahead of schedule. Marcos over in Brazil was not far behind him. Tony Stringer is here. Lollipop Gill, Jaina is here as well. Who else? Just Bob came in 10 minutes before showtime, and you guys were talking about a dishwasher or something for a wee while. Martin Weeks is here. He says, good Sunday evening to all the usual suspects. You know who you are. Let's see. Kyle is here as well. Kyle Zuziak. And I can't really say that today. I don't know why. Sorry, mate. Who else is here? Bob's New York. I think that's what NY stands for. Is here. Glad you're here, Bobs. Thank you for coming. Thomas over in the Philippines is here as well. Rich Cresswell. Good to see you, buddy. You and I have talked here and there on Facebook. Glad you managed to make it. And because I know, it's a bit of an awkward time of the day for you. So thank you for being here, Rich. And I definitely welcome your contributions for sure. And there was me kind of saying, get your questions in the chat. And we got Secret Squirrel as well here. And some funny chat here. And Dwayne is here as well. Kevin's Guitar Stories. And I think I've gone through this, and I think I've caught everybody apart from Oralex Studio. That's Jonah. Hello, Jonah. Good to see you. Welcome. Cleon Richardson is here. He says we start off with a nice reggae vibe. Yes, I do like a bit of reggae, actually. You'd be surprised, being that I'm a jazz guy, more or less. I do like a bit of reggae. So yeah, show 200, finally. So let's see. Let's get your questions, actually. I just want to make as much time as possible tonight for you guys, for your questions and for your talking points. Rather than just me rambling on. Marco says, I can't work higher, and as I know, being a pro is not 83 dB SPL thing, but doing things right. So 2 shapes of EQ and test about 5 songs all balanced. After mix, turn off EQs. I have no idea what you're talking about, Marcos, I'm afraid. If you're talking about how loud the music sounds to you in your speakers, you know what? I will tell you, and this is kind of going to go out to everybody as well, not just you, Marcos, but here's how I set up my speakers. I set up my speakers so that the volume is at a level to which I could sit here and talk to my wife or my daughter or my son or another client who comes to the studio. Not that that really happens at the moment, but certainly has happened. And I have the volume set so that we can hold a normal conversation at a normal conversational volume without having to raise our voices over the music. So that's where I set my speakers. I do not have them loud. Why do I not have them loud? 2 really good reasons. Number 1, when the sound is loud, your ears get fatigued and less objective quicker. And therefore you do not make good mixing decisions with fatigued, tired ears. That's point 1. Point 2. The other thing that your ears do, and this is the way they were designed, is they were designed that when your ears encounter loud sounds, they close up a little bit, which means it's like there is a built-in compressor in your ears that turns the sound down to protect your eardrums. Now, obviously, if the sound pressure is loud enough, is large enough, then it will get past the compressor in your ears, the natural inbuilt compressor in your ears, and it will split your eardrums, which is, I imagine, probably phenomenally painful. But the other thing that happens is, other than your ears kind of having a bit of a compressor thing going on, is they also have a bit of an EQ thing going on as well. So if music is really loud, your ears are going to effectively turn up the bass and turn up the highs. And you get that kind of smiley face thing going on. The louder the music, the more bass there is in your ears, the more highs there are in your ears. And suddenly you think, whoa, this sounds incredible. And then you take it out of your studio and it sounds completely different. You export the mix down, you take it to your car stereo, or you take it to your lounge stereo or something like that, and you go, wow, there is no bass in this mix, but my room is treated. Why is that? It's because your speakers were too loud. Or my mix is really, really harsh, but again, my room is treated. It shouldn't be harsh. Why is that? It's because your speakers are too loud. And if you're going to sit here and mix for more than 30 minutes with your speakers up, pretty loud, you're not going to get a good, objective, well-balanced mix. Just isn't going to happen. So my advice is, and always has been for more than 30 years, cut the volume of your speakers to just about normal conversational volume. If you're not sure what that is and you want to take a sound pressure reading to check what that is, you can do that using a sound pressure, an SPL app. I have one. I have two on my phone. And I check them one against the other, and kind of by triangulating the data in that way, I can go, okay, this is what probably my SPL A-weighted level is, and that gives me a good idea of what my speakers are at. If my speakers are at the same volume that I'm talking to you guys at now, then that's good, because my ears are not going to start turning it down. My ears are not going to get fatigued. They will eventually get fatigued because they're working hard, but they won't get fatigued nearly as quickly if the volume was really loud. So, Marcus, I hope that helps. I don't know entirely if that was the bone of your question, but there we go. Just Bob says, always glad to help and send music to work on for demos. Thank you very much. Marcus says, I made great friendship with your show, and Jonny Gab's one too. Yes, awesome. Thank you. We appreciate it. George Mateos is here. And I only just caught this. Sorry about that. But yes, if you want to ask a question, you need to put the @Jonny Lipsham Studios first so that I see my name highlighted in red and I know it's a question and you're not just talking to somebody in the chat. But George says, when I upgrade to Studio One 5 from Studio One 4, is it okay to uninstall Studio One 4, or do I need it to run Studio One 5? No, you don't need to. You don't need to uninstall it. You can. You absolutely can if you want to, but you don't need to have Studio One 4 installed to run Studio One 5. It's effectively a fresh install of Studio One, is what it is. That's how it is with all .0 updates. So brand new versions of Studio One, like version 3, version 4, version 5. Those are all new versions of Studio One, and you don't need the previous version to run the next one. It's a fresh install. It has its own product key. So yeah, you can just install Studio One 5. You don't have to have Studio One 4 anymore. It's fine. The thing to note, however, is if you open a song that you started in Studio One 4 and you open it up in Studio One 5 and then you save it in Studio One 5, you will not be able to open it up again in Studio One 4. So that happens with definitely, X.0 upgrades. So brand new versions of Studio One, that's what happens. But occasionally what we have done with major updates within that, so maybe like a 0.5, for example, and we did it with Studio One 3.5, was we made that happen as well. So if you had Studio One 3.3, and then you updated to Studio One 3.5, and then you save a song in 3.5, you couldn't open it again in 3.3 rather. And there's a good reason for that. Sometimes it is just something we have to do because of the way the upgrade is structured and the new features that are available and present. Sometimes we just have to do that. But for the most part, it's just, the 0.0, so 4.0, 5.0, 3.0, those are the ones where that kind of file stamp thing, I think it's called, changes. All right, so that's something to be aware of. Ken says, glad to help however I can. Absolutely. Glad to have you here. Let's see. Bobby is here. And the whole chat just literally jumped. He says, I wouldn't be where I'm at without Jonny and Jonny. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much, Bobby. We really appreciate your support. You have been there with both of us right from the beginning. And we value you immensely. Thank you so much, Bobby. Oh, Mika Hans here. I didn't see you walk in the door. And DDD Entertainment is here. Thank you for the knowledge and my favorite songwriting. Favorite song, toilet paper. Yeah, the toilet paper song thing, that was hilarious. One day we will kind of revisit that kind of idea. Ironweed says, who does a good 6 p.m. Central Standard Time live stream on Saturdays? At the moment, nobody does, as far as I'm aware. Occasionally, David Vignola over at Home Recording Made Easy. Occasionally, he does one on a Saturday, but for the most part, it's a bit of a gap. We all need a bit of a rest sometimes. So Jonny doesn't do streams on the weekends at all, and I just do mine on the Sunday, and you know, whoever else is streaming, they can have at it for the rest of the week, as far as I'm concerned, because my weeks are just busy enough as it is. To be really honest. Richard says, Rich Cresswell says, happy to be part of the chat. Awesome. Glad to have you here. Mika says, have you confirmed the channel editor is not copied when one performs channel copy paste? Yeah, I thought we'd kind of dealt with that maybe on a show that we did with Jonny Gibe. I'm pretty sure that we did. Old School Funk and Soul says, I'm here. Thanks, Jonny, for all your help over the months via Facebook. You're welcome, mate. I'm glad to have helped. Secret Squirrel says, I have 2 Studio One chord track queries. First one, is it possible if skipping chord assignment between 2 assigned measures to come back and have chord tracks suggest pivot chords? Interesting question. The second one is it possible to run a secondary chord track to sketch open chords, suggestive runs arpeggiations for shared note chords which plan to modulate between measures? Second question, no, there is only one chord track, and it is very, very likely to stay that way. If you need to experiment with chord changes and such like, you can do that in the scratch pad. That's kind of why, one of the reasons why scratch pads were created in Studio One 3 was for that very purpose, that you can experiment. You can do all of your experimentation with anything really, and then you can decide to either abandon it or bring the whole lot over, or just bring elements of it over into your main song. So the scratch pad really is probably the answer to both of your things. However, the first part, is it possible to come back and have chord tracks suggest pivot chords? Chord track doesn't really suggest chords. It detects chords. It tells you what it hears. It doesn't say, you know, it's not got like a musicology app built into it or anything like that. And you're kind of, I don't know why, but for some reason you're making me think of Clippy. Do you remember Clippy from Microsoft Word? Kind of making me think a little bit like about that, where, you know, Clippy, you would do something and then Clippy would suggest, hey, are you sure you want to do it that way? You can do it this way instead. We don't have something like that in Studio One as yet. I don't know, maybe it would make a good feature request. It's certainly worth thinking about, and if you would like to make it as a feature request, you can do. You can do that over at answers.presonus.com, and all you need to do is basically ask a question and then make sure that you put the answer in the Studio One feature request section. Have a look through first and see if it's there. If it's there already, don't duplicate it, because that really doesn't help anybody. Vote it up, and then go and ask all of your mates who you think would, your suggestion would help. Get them to vote it up as well. Would be my answer to that, I think. So yeah, I think your first part of your question is make a feature request, and the second part of your question is to maybe use scratch pads for working out kind of those kind of things. And actually, pivot chords are not really as difficult as you think that they might be. You know, Most pivot chords are usually 5-1. You know, or they could be flat 2-1. You know, so you know the flat 2 being the pivot into the 1. So yeah. Or you know, kind of like augmented chords. So you know, let's see. Which would you know, which could lead you to A minor or I forgot to change the sound because I know you guys have been talking to me about don't use the Fender Rhodes sound because it doesn't come across on mobile devices very well. So or a diminished chord would be a nice little passing chord, pivot chord if you like, into chord 2. So 1, flat 2, diminished, into 2, 5, and then you could go 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. So yeah, there's pivot chords are not really that complicated, but yeah, scratch pads, you're going to be your best thing there, I think, for that. Let's see. Marcus is talking about Fletcher Munson curves. I did 2 EQs and all 5 songs sounded shaped, so good technique to work quiet without elevating for good perception. Yeah, you know what? I don't really concern myself massively with things like Fletcher Munson curves. I mean, they're important. But to be honest, these are your best guides. Learn what your speakers sound like in your room with your acoustic treatment if you have some. If you don't, then you really are going to have to learn what your speakers sound like in your room and get a pair of open back headphones to help you achieve your best bounce. And of course, reference tracks. Learn what a great classic record sounds like on your speakers in your room. And you'll instantly know what a really good snare drum should sound like in your room. And then you can use that to kind of help you get there with a snare drum with some EQ, some compression, and, you know, getting the level and the balance right. You know, those kind of things. That's where those kind of things are far more practical and useful rather than, you know, trying to spend hours messing around with Fletcher Munson curves and SPL A-weighted, B-weighted, or C-weighted values and that kind of thing. Those kind of things are useful, absolutely. But the most important thing is just to get into making music and using your ears to kind of decide where things should go in your mix, kind of decide how much compression to use, what needs EQing, what needs cut, what needs boosted, and just, you know, that's really the best way. You don't really need Fletcher Munson curves massively. George says I skipped his question. Well, George, you need to make sure that you put my name like everybody else has done here with the, if you put the @ sign and then start typing Jonny Lipsham Studios, and then it should autofill that, and then you can put your question after that, and then I will see the red box around my name, and I will know that it is a question directed for me. So I won't miss your question. So I'm sorry that I missed your question. George, I'm going to try and see if I can find it. If you did that, then great. But I thought I answered your question about upgrading, because I did see that. and told you that, yeah, you don't need to uninstall Studio One 4 to run Studio One 5, and you can have it installed or you can have it not installed. On this computer right now, I have Studio One 4 and Studio One 5 side by side, no problems. But you don't need Studio One 4 in order to run Studio One 5. They should work just fine. Rich Creswell has a question. When we drag audio files to the browser, my files aren't numbered 1 and 2 and so on in the order that they are laid out in Studio One. Is there a workaround? I think what happens when you drag anything effectively out of Studio One into the files section of the browser, what it does is it puts things into, I think, an alphabetical order rather than the same order that it was in the arranger view. I think that's kind of how it works. Because generally speaking, when you're dragging out of Studio One to the files tab in the browser, what you're doing is you're actually taking it out of the application and into the domain of your operating system and how it handles file management. And for the most part, most computers handle file management alphabetically. So that's kind of the way it puts things. It puts things alphabetically. And I know that that's a pain in the butt because it means when you drag everything in, let's say somebody sends you a bunch of stems and you drag them in, you have to start rearranging things because you can end up with, drums at the top, vocals at the bottom, or even worse, you end up with trumpets and trombones at the top and the vocals are way down the bottom and you have to start shifting and moving things around. And that is a pain in the butt. But at the moment, it's all to do with kind of like how file management works. And I don't think Studio One actually, remembers what it was like, what the order was when it was created in Studio One in the first place, if you follow me. So I hope that answers that, Rich, but that is a really good question. Marcus says, I was long talking with a guy and we talked about Fletcher Manson curves that can't go beyond because of the apartment thing, so it's okay to work quieter levels on or not a pro thing. I think I kind of answered that already, and I said that I have my speakers set at a low volume. Just barely above the volume of my speaking voice right now, which is not very loud. At the moment it comes in at, let me see, around about minus 5 dB, in fact, is where my speaking voice is. But, again, I can look at my SPL. Let's see what we're at SPL-wise. Hang on. Unlock my phone first. And let's go... Where's my SPL meter? Don't think I uninstalled it. Hang on. Where's it gone? Why can't I see it? I know I definitely did not uninstall this thing, so where is it? What the heck? How's it gone? Hang on just a minute, folks. Sorry, I'm trying to find my SPL meter. And I know I did say I have 2, but for some reason they're not here. That's weird. Okay. Am I going to have to download it again? SPL meter. All right, so I'm going to hold this here. And at the moment, my speaking volume, dBA weighted, is round about 92 dBA. But I can obviously change the weighting to none. Hang on, that didn't work. Weighting, none. Okay, so without the weighting, my speaking volume is round about 96 dB. But most of the time you would want it to record some weighting. So I'm going to do C weighting. C weighting, I'm talking around about 100 dB. So yeah, just round about conversational level. Really, don't worry about SPLs and that kind of thing. Billy says I mix at 85 dB. To mix position live was anywhere between 110 and 130. Yeah, when you're out live, it's definitely much louder, but certainly anything below 85 dB is good. And I would just leave it at that, really. Mika says, folks, don't forget that Melda Dynamic EQ is free when you buy anything from Plugin Boutique. It's a fantastic EQ, super creative tool. Cool, I'll check it out. Bobby Booth has some very, very sage advice here. He says, I get up every 50 minutes to take a break. Absolutely, I do that as well. The SPL apps. Einwieders Studios is asking about the SPL app. What was mine called? I had to actually go and try and open it via flipping the Google Play Store because I couldn't find it on my phone. I know it's here. I just couldn't find it. I don't know why I couldn't find it. I've got one called Sound Tools. Continue. Which is pretty good. And you can set the thing with this one, which I'm not really sure you're going to be able to see very well. Hang on. The thing with this one is you can set the response time. And it displays pretty nicely, and you can see kind of what my level is at with the phone that far away from me. So if I was to put my phone kind of a reasonable distance away from me, and if I set the response time to slow, there we go. With the response time set to slow, I'm talking around about 50 dB. Medium display. And that's an analog VU. Let's go for the digital. Okay. There we go. All right, so this one says I'm talking around about 50 dB, 55 dB, which is all right. The ambient noise of my room is 21 dB. But there we go. That one's called Sound Tools. I can't find the other one. Auralex Studios, who said something and it flew past for some reason. He says 75 is a great level in a small room. Yeah, this is a relatively small room. It's like 11 by 8.5. Martin Wheat says, and take breaks, get up, leave the studio and give your ears and brain cooling off period. Absolutely. Dwayne says, audio negative. When the loud guitar player on stage gets turned down in the PA In the live PA sounded, if you are recording from the main out, the guitar will be too low. I'm not really quite sure what you're talking about there, Dwayne. You might need to rephrase so that I can figure out what you're getting at there. Nice pun there, Martin. Low-Ends is here. Hello, mate. Good to see you. Welcome. Ken is going to have to go by the look of it because he says a tornado warning just came up. Stay safe, Ken. Tornadoes are pretty nasty. The last time I was in the United States, I was there to witness a tornado. It was not a massive one. It was only an EF3, but EF3s can be very destructive and dangerous. And it was pretty thrilling and exciting, but scary at the same time. So I know what those are like. Oralex Studio says, check out a plugin called Scalar 2 for chord theory suggestions. It's an interesting plugin and helpful. Then you can drag the chords into Studio One and use Studio One chord track. Very powerful combo. Scalar 2, yeah, I've heard quite a bit about Scalar 2. I've heard mixed things about Scalar 2, actually, in terms of how actually accurate it is for suggesting chords. Cleon says, I'll have to put a feature request of embedding WAV files in videos instead of MP3s, AAC, and the Dolby format. Okay, if that's what you need to do. But here's the thing, with videos that you import into Studio One, you're kind of a little bit bound by the format that the video was sent to you in. So if the video was sent to you as an MP4, then it's not going to be WAV audio. So yeah, that's gonna be the thing. And the same with exporting. When you're exporting, there are at the moment a certain number of file types that you can export a video with. But yeah, that's kind of just the way it is at the moment. And yeah, hopefully there will be further future developments. Secret Squirrel says, I'm just now learning all of these things almost at once. Not a guitarist or pianist, which raises my questions for theory tools. Okay, that's good. What, pray tell, is a scratch pad? Scratch pad is very cool. Excuse me. The cool thing about scratch pad is the idea of it is, here's how it came about. Arne Kaiser, the general manager of Persona Software, when he gets sent demos and things, a while back, kind of when it was Studio One 2, he said quite often there'd be like this long silence after the end of the song, and then suddenly more music would come on, and he'd go, oh, obviously this is something that the user didn't want to discard because they thought that, you know, elements that they might have experimented with might be useful later, or they move further down the song because they didn't want to kind of affect what they were doing at the you know, the where the main part of the song was. They didn't want to affect that, so they kind of moved things further down the timeline out of the way, and they used that area as a way where they could kind of experiment, try different things out, and then drag it back along the timeline. And that's how the scratch pad was born. So you don't have to move things down. I can show you. I can show you kind of how it works. Oops. So here's how it works. Let's say with this song, I wanted a scratch pad because I wanted to do some experimenting. Well, I can click this button up here, and it creates a second timeline. Let's get the mixer view out of the way. It creates a second timeline. So this is my main song, and this is kind of like an alternative timeline. And as you can see here, I can adjust the zoom on each section independently. So I can have this set like this, and I can have this set to whatever zoom level that I want. And let's say I decide that I want to mess about with this arrangement. I actually don't at the moment, so I'm not really going to do anything. But let's say I decided that I wanted to mess about with the chorus. Well, what I could do is I could drag the chorus over to here. And I've now got a copy of my chorus in this scratch pad. And let's say I decide I don't like these guitars anymore, so I'm going to remove them and I'm going to replace them with other guitar parts and experiment. And I can do that. I can mess this up as royally as I want, and this here is completely unaffected. But let's say I decide, after having done all my messing about, hey, actually this is what I want. This is actually better than what I had before. I can drag this over from the scratch pad and I can replace it. So, you know, that's fairly easy to do. I can just go boink there and it's replaced. But as you can see, there's still a copy of it in the scratch pad. So scratch pads are really, really cool from that point of view. And then I can just, if I want to hide it, I can just click up here and it's gone. And I'm now looking at just the main view. If I click this down arrow, I can rename the scratch pad, I can duplicate it, I can add another one, or I can delete the scratch pad altogether. But you can have as many of these as you want. And the big secret is that the scratch pad really is all the way over here somewhere. It really does live at the end of the timeline somewhere, but nobody knows where. It's, you know, it's like the honey pot at the end of the rainbow. Nobody knows exactly where it is. So I hope that kind of helps answers that one about scratch pads. The guide, Marcus says the guy did not mention about being pro and not just used A3 standard. I just mentioned, so I was thinking deciding. Okay, that's fine. Billy Morgan says, I have Studio One 251 version 3, 4, and 5 on my PC. Yeah, I have access from my Presonus account to all of those as well. I have Studio One version 2.0 and then all versions after that. My teacher built an anti-vibrational thing around 1020 gain boost about bass. How do you lead about those vibrations? Anything below 20 hertz is never going to be heard. It just isn't, because the human threshold of hearing does not go down that far. On average, I mean, there are some people whose hearing does go down to, you know, the average threshold of human hearing is 20 cycles per second to 20,000 cycles per second. As you get older, the top end starts to come down, and in some cases you get a little bit of a high pass filtering as well, and you lose maybe some of your low end as well. Some people experience that as they get older. Most people just experience a low pass filter that takes the top end out as they get older. But nobody's going to hear anything below 20 hertz. It's just not going to happen. You know, but if the thing is that some speakers will still reproduce it, even if you can't hear it. And so with that in mind, one of the best things you can do is just use a little high-pass filter on your master bus that takes out anything below 20 cycles per second. And then that way, anything that's going to your speakers is not going to have any information below 20 cycles per second. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. You don't need to build anything to absorb those ultra-low frequencies. You just need to filter them out. And that's it, really, because you're not going to be able to hear them anyway. But your speakers might, if they are a particular standard or a particular type of speaker, and we're really talking about speakers that are like $5,000 to $25,000 speakers, they might reproduce audio below 20 cycles per second. But for the most part, no. most people here on this show are not gonna need that, and they're not gonna have access to $25,000 studio speakers. They're just not. So it's not really something to worry about particularly. Just use a little high pass filter. Let's see, what else do we have here? Cleon says, I mix in Slate VSX headphones and I stay in the green level, not too loud. Then I play it on my TV and Bluetooth boombox. It works for me. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's got to have their little quality control system. I have a couple of different things that I do, actually without leaving this room. Because I have the PreSonus monitor station, I can hook up different monitors. I can also hook up different headphone types as well. So I have these, the HD7s PreSonus. I also have the HD9s. I also have some very old earbuds that I can plug in to the headphones on the monitor station. I also have a set of Bluetooth earbuds as well. And we have our 4K TV as well, and I can just stuff it on a flash drive, plug the flash drive into the TV, and I can play the track. So yeah, I do have multiple different types of sources that I can listen to my music on and my client's music, and I can check that everything sounds as good as possible on all of those. And if it does, then I would just go, okay, I'm signing off on this. It's done. So there you go. Dwayne says, I was referring to how your studio monitors or headphones can cause issues in your mix. If you hear too much bass, you can turn it down. Now less bass in the car playback. Yeah, absolutely. Mike at Peace Valley Audio's here. He says, no computer would kill me. Been concentrating more on photography than music lately, but I still mess around sometimes. Well, you know what? I'm glad that you are experimenting with different things, and you're finding other things that you enjoy as well as music. I mean, most people don't know this, but I have other things that I do with my spare time. I'm a big cricket fan. I have this here is a cricket ball that I was given after a match for pretty much almost single-handedly winning the game with my bowling. But yeah, I have a few of these where I basically get given the match ball for getting lots of people out. So yeah, I played a lot of cricket in my youth and my 20s until my knees packed up, basically. So I keep one of them on my studio desk here. I'm also into military history. I'm also into acting as well. I was, before we moved here, I was a member of an amateur dramatic society. So a drama company based in the southeast of Edinburgh, and we put on a fair few plays and shows. We did some Shakespeare and things like that. But I've also been an extra in TV as well. So, and been in a couple of films as well as an extra, which is always a good way to earn some extra money, to be honest. Billy says, great show. Congrats on number 200. Good night, everybody. God bless. Yes, it is that time. Thank you, Billy, my director. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, it is that time. We have definitely come to the end of the show. And John Lake says, I think I'm late. I think you are. It's okay. It's fine. It's not a problem. You can watch the replay. I think you can... John says, I think you can feel audio below 20 hertz if you can reproduce it. Yes, if your speakers are able to reproduce it, you may be able to feel it. Particularly if you are bare feet in your studio and there's nothing to absorb those frequencies below 20 cycles per second. Yeah, you probably would be able to feel them. If your feet are particularly sensitive, you might be able to feel it. But yeah, that's only if your speakers could actually reproduce it. But if they can't reproduce it, then it really, you're not gonna hear it. You're not gonna hear it in your mix. And so really, the only thing to do is to just go and grab a high pass filter. I don't have one on this particular mix, but it's not that hard to go and grab one. I can just go down to here, find the Pro EQ. Here it is, Pro EQ. Stick this in here above the level meter, and high pass, and just set that to 20. There you go, job done. And you can make that as steep or as smooth as you want. As steep or as gentle as you want it. I mean, I tend to have it to 12 dB per octave for my filter slope. And that's it. Just set that to, maybe 20, 22, 23, and just leave it there. And then any audio that goes through the main output now will go through this filter, and anything below 20 will just get filtered out. So it will not be a problem. So there you go. Rich says, nice to catch you all here. Back to dealing with spreadsheets. Oh, Rich, you have my empathy, my friend, and know that I'm standing with you as you go through your spreadsheets. I hate spreadsheets with a passion, which is why I studiously avoid them as much as possible. Peter Brick says Omnisphere 2.6. Yeah, Omnisphere 2.6 exists. I'm not really sure what your question is there. You are possibly responding to somebody else. Just Bob says, happy 200 episodes. You've outlived most BBC shows. I am creeping up on Doctor Who. Yes, I certainly am creeping up on Doctor Who episodes. However, I have a lot of years to catch up on, because, I mean, that show started in 1963 and it's still going. So, yeah, it's going to be a challenge to catch up with them. It's one of my favorite shows as well. How did you know I like Doctor Who? There you go. Anyway, I think we're done. And I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. You guys, as ever, are absolutely freaking awesome. You rock considerably. And I'm going to be back with Jonny Geib on Wednesday over on his channel, the Home Studio Trainer channel, for Songwriting Simplified. And we will get into songwriting questions. We'll have a topic of discussion as well. I'm sure Jonny will have some tricky questions for me. So yeah, that will be cool. So it's going to be 6 p.m. Central, same time as this show, just over on his channel rather than mine. And I'll see you then. And then we'll be back here next week for episode 201. So I will see you then, folks. Good night.